Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay. Friday, and all of our guests today, including Thomas Drance, standing by. Brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Looking for a midweek escape close to home? BC residents save 15% on weekday stays at the Bayside Oceanfront Resort in Parksville. Relax by the ocean, enjoy great dining, and unwind with island hospitality. Book now at BaysideResortParksville.com. Just before we get to Thomas, NBI Raj and several people have sent us menus
Of?
and lists of the most expensive cuts of meat. Steak, all right?
What do you got?
T-Bone's not even close. NBI Raj has sent us in the Delaney inbox a list: tenderloin, porterhouse, sirloin. T-Bone's not even on the list. The one that's getting a lot of love, not as expensive as some of the more expensive cuts, ribeye.
Oh, ribeye's good. Yeah.
The reason I said T-bone is because I thought about the bone part and mixed it up with the tomahawk. That's why I said T-bone.
The bone part.
Yeah. Filet mignon, by the way, is overrated. That's the one with the. Is that the one with the
It's
bacon?
expensive, Ryan.
It's
The
good.
bacon?
Yeah.
Why do I need bacon? I'm having steak.
You get the
I don't
pack
need-
of 3 at Costco. It's a good deal.
Okay, well.
Tenderloin. Thomas Drance from The Athletic
Yeah.
joins us now. Speaking of tenderloin, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm medium rare, Chicago style. No, I bone and ribeye. By the way, that's just the one you want.
There you go. Yeah.
Don't worry about anything else.
Well, you're not alone. You're not alone there.
Yeah.
No, I'm a man of taste.
Well, we know that.
We don't
Okay,
know
I
that.
don't know where there's so much going on here, including talking about steaks. But Thomas, I don't know where to start here. How about this, Vander Kane? We haven't had you on since earlier this week when the Canucks acquired Vander Kane. Your opinion of that move by Vancouver?
Yeah, I have a bit of a complicated opinion on it. You know, my view of it basically is that this team needs to create value more than anything else, and you know, by locking up or acquiring a $5 million 33-year-old forward, even though he's a big, heavy player who has the stomach for the fight in the toughest games of the year, something this team desperately needed. You know, even if it works, like even if Evander Kane plays 70 games and scores 25 goals for this team and plays in the top 6, you know, you're still going to be dealing a year from now with a 34-year-old pending unrestricted free agent and a very risky contract to navigate there. So I just look at this as the sort of bet, and there's obvious downsides, right? We don't need to get into it, but there's obvious downsides given what we've seen across his decade-plus career. So there's downside risk, but also what do you get if you're right? Like what do you get if you're right? The opportunity to sign an aging player to an inefficient contract. And I don't see how that dovetails with a team that, you know, I think needs to like find some long-term fixes and add some star level potential into their forward group. So, you know, that's sort of my issue with the deal overall is I just don't feel like it's the best use of their limited bullets from a cap space perspective if they're going to like seriously change the trajectory of this forward group. So those are my concerns. I certainly understand that they needed a player with Kane's skill set. And I'd add this because this is a through line that I think explains a lot of what Rick and I were able to report earlier this morning on, you know, a Garland extension and real positive feeling about the potential of a Demko extension. And I know Rick and I will be keeping our eye on Bowen Byram all day, right? And so how does that all make sense? How does that all fit together? Well, in this atmosphere of cap growth, I think the Canucks have had a pretty frustrating couple of weeks where they've been on a lot of no trade clauses, where they've seen a lot of doors closed to them. And I think this is an organization that's reacting to that in part by putting a real premium on players that want to play in Vancouver. Kane helped guide this process so that he'd land in his hometown. Garland and Demko, that their commitment to stay appealed greatly to the team. What do we know about Bowen Byram? That he'd very much be excited about playing in his hometown. There's a premium that's going to be placed by this organization on players that want to be here. And I think that makes a ton of sense given the frustration that this hockey ops leadership group has encountered across the last month, not to mention everything we saw go down with this team last season.
All right, let's talk about Garland and Demko. Okay, we know Garland's done. Why did they do it? Second of all, where are we with Demko? We're hearing positivity and it might get done this weekend.
So the Garland thing, why did they do it? Again, I think this is a player who they've come to view as a dependable, high effort leader in that dressing room, which is a pretty amazing turnaround from how he was rated by this club when Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin first took over from Jim Benning a couple of years back. So, Cap's going up. We've seen this club move early to sign some of their priorities a couple months ago with Marcus Pettersson and with Drew O'Connor. So getting this locked up early, I think there is an element to which navigating the the cap growth era plays a role in this decision and this urgency they showed on Garland, but only a small role. Like, I think the fact that Garland wanted to be here and the fact that the organization views him as a safe bet and a big part of this team's future, I think that's fundamentally why they decided to move quickly and move to close on extending Garland. As for Demko, really positive reports about his off-season training, about his mindset, and this team wants to have a killer goaltending duo. That's something they want to do. They want to be able to build from the net out. If this team is going to punch above their weight in the Pacific Division, well, we know they're not going to be able to outscore some of their issues, most likely. They're going to have to be a high-end goal prevention outfit, and that starts with saves. Demko obviously comes with risks. So does any player, especially in the wake of a season last year in which he dealt with 3 different injury-related extended absences, gentlemen. But, from the club's point of view, it's a risk they're willing to take because every player comes with them, but only Demko among them is the sort of guy who can steal you a game or an entire playoff series independently. They view him as a top 3 goaltender, and the club wants to be strong in net and is totally comfortable having $11.5–12 million committed between the pipes between Demko and Lankinen, because let's face it, the cap's going up anyway. 2 years from now, that's going to be the equivalent of spending $8.5 million in net in the flat cap era. No one would have batted an eyelash at a $6 million starter and a $2.5 million 1B option back then, 2-3 years ago. So from the club's point of view, this is the same bet that would have been a couple years back in a different cap environment. So those are some of the things that have gone into that. I am hearing a lot of positivity on Garland and on Demko. I don't know if Demko gets done on July 1. Both of these deals might get done shortly thereafter, but they're certainly in progress, and the club is hopeful to complete that business shortly.
All right, quickly, Besser and Suter, is there any chance, or are they gone?
I think they're most likely going to hit the market on July 1, Rick. Club's expecting that. I think the door's open a crack on Pius Suter, a little more so than it is on Brock Besser. Two sides are still talking, obviously, a close relationship between Besser's representatives and the Canucks, but I do suspect that this close to the market, Besser's going to go and hear what's out there for him. As for Suter, I suspect that he's going to market. I think the Canucks suspect that he's going to market. Those two sides remain in touch as well. Not like daily grinding away at a deal, which is probably a sign of where this is trending. But both sides know what it'll take. And I'll be curious to see what the Canucks are able to complete. They're obviously shopping that 15th overall pick. They're looking for a second-line center, Rick. If they can't find him, if they can't find one, they can't upgrade the middle of their forward group. Do they circle back and meet Suter's number before July 1? I'll be curious to see, and I think this weekend will tell us a lot about whether or not that file is going to be an active one before the market opens or not.
Okay, and quickly, Thomas, we're hearing Artur Silovs is being shopped around. Would you be okay with that if he moved away from the organization?
Well, if the club's signing Demko, then the writing's on the wall. Silovs will require waivers next fall. This follows very logically, right? It's a linear thing. If you're keeping Demko, then Silovs should be dealt so that you manage the risk that he'll be lost for nothing on waivers. Club's really high on Ty Young. They're going to qualify Nikita Tolopilo. That'll be the duo in Abbotsford next season, and the Canucks will roll with a 1B and a 1A in Demko and Lankinen. At least that's their first choice, and that's where this is trending, that they think gives them a shot to have elite goaltending in this league. We'll see if it pans out.
This hit had a lot of meat on the bone. Thanks for that, Thomas. Appreciate it.
It was a bone-in hit, the best kind.
There you go.
Have a good day, gentlemen. Happy draft day.
We'll stop right there.
Right there.
Again, our thanks to Thomas. The draft coming up, 4 o'clock.